This stupid election is finally over. Took forever. Like, yeah. Everybody knew who they were voting for 4 years ago. And then they just drag you through a year and a half of this.
Liberals are so stupid the way that they handle Trump.
What do you mean?
You should shut up. And then that was it. He was on the casino circuit, and then you idiot liberals wrote him twist again when you indicted him. And now he's a martyr.
Stuff. Like, who was sitting there watching the debate, like, still not decided? Two of the most polar opposite people ever. It's like, all right, let's see. What does the orange bigot have to say?
He's a narcissist. Neutral energy.
Yeah.
Neutral.
You think he'd go away?
You know what I think he was? I think he was a one-hit wonder. Right? He wrote the twist. It's going to be great for comedy. He's coming back.
This year, you're not going to get a visit from Santa, but you are going to get a visit from the Secret Service.
Ever wonder what makes Trump lose his mind faster than his hairpiece in a windstorm? Bill Burr just showed us all when he ripped into the former president with jokes so brutal they should be classified as weapons. Trump's reaction, a full-on Twitter meltdown where he couldn't even spell comedian right. Nothing says presidential material like throwing a tantrum because someone called your hair a dead squirrel glued to a balloon. Stick around to see exactly what Burr said that sent Trump over the edge. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video. Ever seen what happens when you poke an orange balloon with a pin? Trump's reaction to Bill Burr was even more explosive. Our former president has always had thinner skin than dollar store toilet paper, but his meltdown over Burr's comedy set took his tantrum throwing to Olympic levels. While normal politicians just roll their eyes at comedians and move on with their lives, Trump decided the appropriate response was a 3-hour Twitter rampage that had his phone practically smoking. The man was so triggered he couldn't even spell comedian correctly. Not once, not twice, but 4 different ways in a single afternoon. That's not just embarrassing, that's a cry for help from his autocorrect. One of his rage tweets read,
"The guy is a lunatic." I mean, he literally got shot and immediately jumped back up and started yelling in the direction the bullets were coming from, unarmed. Just tell her she won. Tell her she won. But Trump's got all those weird, coming out. I think the guy couldn't get like a bead on him, That's not a sane human being. I would have been on the ground crying in the fetal position, like, all right, give me the truck. I don't want this job anymore.
Failing comedian Bill Burr thinks he's funny, sad, couldn't sell out a phone booth. Phone booth? Really? Someone needs to tell Grandpa Trump those went extinct alongside his natural hair color. It's like he's living in a 1980s time capsule where he's still relevant and phone booths still exist. The best part was watching Trump's logic short circuit in real time. In one tweet, he'd claim he never heard of Burr, then immediately follow up with specific insults about him. It's like saying, I don't know who that guy is, but here's his home address and his dog's name. Classic Trump thinking, about as straight as a roller coaster track. What's truly hilarious is how Trump's meltdown perfectly demonstrated exactly what Burr was joking about, his childish temperament and inability to handle criticism. It was like watching a toddler scream, "I'm not having a tantrum," while throwing all his toys out of the crib. The fallout was even better. As Trump kept rage tweeting into the night, his own followers started questioning why their supposedly tough-as-nails leader was so rattled by a comedian's jokes. Nothing says strong alpha male like being completely unhinged because a funny man said mean words about you. Behind every presidential meltdown is a comedian who found the exact right buttons to push. When Bill Burr asked, "Who's the fairest of them all?" during his routine, he wasn't just making a Snow White reference.
I don't want to hear it. I don't watch politics. So, we're going to keep it light. All right? There we go. All right. Well, I just got over the flu, which is fantastic. You know what I mean? Just going through this Rolodex of people that coughed on you, sniffled near you, walked by an Asian or something. You try to fight it. They say on the internet, that's where all the disease comes from. The whole flight, I'm sitting there looking at his dirty Jesus feet. And all I'm thinking is the next pandemic is growing in the bottom of his feet. And all I'm going to be is the next, patient number 2. whatever the next disease is, you know?
He was exposing the mirror-obsessed narcissist hiding behind the tough guy act. What made Burr's comedy so powerful wasn't the obvious low-hanging fruit most comedians grab when making fun of Trump. While others go for the easy jokes about spray tans and weird hand gestures, Burr went straight for the jugular with surgical precision. This wasn't just a comedy routine, it was psychological warfare with punchline.
I'll be honest with you, I can't believe Trump didn't win this thing like 4 months ago, you know? I know that's weird for younger people to hear, but like when I was a kid, if you were running for president and you got shot and you didn't die, that was the end of the election. How about the real estate agent that speaks through her nose? Oh, there's a point. This is so difficult. It's like they overlap. I just can't make up my mind. There was nothing you could say, right? Everybody would just be like, this guy's the man. He is the king. I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I think the number one reason like Trump survived is all those herky-jerky movements that he does.
Burr started with a quick jab about Trump's hair looking like a dead squirrel, but that was just to warm up the crowd. The real damage came when he moved on to Trump's fragile ego, suggesting our former president starts each morning asking his mirror, who's the fairest of them all, while perfecting his signature pouty face. The audience didn't just laugh, they gasped, knowing Burr had just perfectly captured Trump's obsession with appearance in one devastating line. What's brilliant about Burr's approach is how he methodically worked through each of Trump's insecurities like he was following a checklist. Hair, check. Business skills, demolished with the joke about being so bad at deals he could bankrupt a money printing machine. Intelligence, obliterated with the Snow White mirror reference that painted Trump as a vain, insecure princess. But the real genius was in the delivery. Unlike comedians who come across as just mean-spirited Trump haters, Burr kept it playful, with a grin and a wink that made the audience feel like they were all in on the joke together. He wasn't screaming, "Trump is bad." He was nudging the audience saying, we all see through this guy, right? That's a much more effective way to get people nodding along.
My favorite part of the campaign, though, was when Trump went to McDonald's. Wasn't that amazing? That's the only time I've ever seen that guy truly happy. Like, he was glowing. Hey, whoever gets this one's going to be excited. It's like, oh my God, was that empathy? Of the people, Donald? It's like when the Grinch came down the hill, bringing the toys back, and his heart got a little bigger. When he got behind the counter, it was like he was behind stage at like Springsteen or something. He's like, oh my God, this is like where they make the French fries.
The finishing move came when Burr called Trump a toddler with nuclear codes who needs a timeout instead of the Oval Office. In just 8 words, he perfectly captured why so many Americans are terrified of Trump returning to power. His dangerous combination of childish temperament and access to unprecedented destruction. This whole Trump versus Burr showdown proves that comedy hits harder than any debate ever could. When comedians like Burr shine a spotlight on powerful figures, they're not just making us laugh, they're giving us a reality check about who's running the show. Humor cuts through the noise and exposes truth in ways serious journalism sometimes can't. So next time you're doom scrolling through political nightmares, remember that a well-timed joke might be democracy's secret weapon. Comedy doesn't just entertain us, it keeps our leaders honest by showing us the real person behind the fancy title. The fact that Trump completely lost it over some jokes tells us everything we need to know about his fitness for office. As grumpy Trumpy tries to claw his way back to relevance, comedians aren't just providing laughs, they're the frontline defenders keeping our democracy from turning into a complete circus. Sometimes the orange turd needs to be flushed out with laughter.